have time for her. I didn't have time for her. Just like many of you don't have time for your parents right now, or your grandparents, or whoever loves you. I didn't have time for it. But because I was under pretrial supervision, I had to make time. So as I was making time for her this night and started rubbing my mother's hair, she complained of a headache. So I'm rubbing her hair and her headache's not getting any better. So she told me to call the ambulance. I called the ambulance, mother gets rushed to the hospital again. In the hospital, she got diagnosed with a brain tumor in the lung. I was 12 days before my 18th birthday. My mother, now going to chemotherapy, not able to come to court with me, I got sentenced to 8 years in prison. I went from being a track star with over 40 scholarship offers to being an inmate in Gander Hill Prison. 00275. It's my federal FBI. 00275-138. Being locked up, no high school diploma, 8 years in prison, a week after my 18th birthday now. My father having passed away from a heart attack, my mother dying from cancer that's invading and ravaging her body. I didn't know what to do. A couple months goes by, and I visit my mother is able to come to visit me once in a while. But as I said, her beautiful black hair started falling out because of chemo. Does anyone know of somebody or related to someone who's had cancer? It's real. It's one of the most horrible diseases I can imagine. You literally see your loved one fall apart. So luckily, at least God had a plan for me. I didn't have to see it as much being locked up. So how many of you know somebody, have been, or related to someone who's been locked up? That's a high majority. So what's real special, or what is something that prisoners or inmates really look forward to, other than commissary? My man, what you said? Visit. Visits make up your whole week. You wearing the same thing, you don't have an iron, but you're trying to steam your clothes, you're trying to press them however you can, and you're trying to look fresh just for your visit. So every Wednesday, my mother would come down for a visit. So I got dressed up about 2 o'clock for my weekly 2 o'clock visit. I get escorted down to the visiting room, and I sit there at the assigned booth 14. As I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. All the other visitors come in, start sitting down. I'm sitting at my booth, 5 minutes goes by, no mom. 10 minutes goes by, no mom. 15 minutes goes by, no mom. That's considered a what? A no-show. So what do you think they did with me? Took me back to my pocket. So you don't have the freedom to jump on the phone right away. Because by the time I got back from my scheduled visit that didn't occur, it was straight lockdown time until the next shift. So when I was finally able to get out about 6 o'clock that night to finally get on the phone, I had found out my mother had slipped into a coma that fast. I would never see my mother alive. Nor will I ever see her dead. Because when they petitioned to let me to go to the funeral, they said no. In less than 6 months, I lost my father to a heart attack. I lost my mother to cancer. I was sentenced to 8 years in prison. I just turned 18. Not knowing what else to do, not having any options, there was an older gentleman, much like your Lincoln's coordinators, not that all y'all are old, but much like your Lincoln's coordinators, that looked out for me. Because there's 2 things that can happen to you when you get locked up. You become a better prisoner, or you learn something. So as I was sitting in that cell, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, an older brother said, you got to get it together. See, none of you will make it by yourselves. None of us. We all need support. We all need support. So as I was trying to think about what I wanted to do next, that older brother told me, you gotta get your education. You gotta finish. I went on and got my GED in prison, got my high school diploma in prison. I learned how to be a certified conflict mediator, and because I was doing what I was supposed to do, making right choices, people on the outside wrote my judge years off my sentence. I got out of prison August 9th of 1996. 9 days later, I was at Lincoln University preparing to go to college. During my 4 years at Lincoln University, I was a triple major, history, black studies, and education. I graduated as a top student teacher. I was Mr. Lincoln University. I joined a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. I ended up graduating, going on to get my master's, getting my doctorate. I became a teacher, assistant principal, and a high school principal for 6 years. Can I get some love? Yeah. But we don't hear about those stories. We don't hear about those stories. We know that 85% of black and brown males who get locked up go back. We know that 85% of students who fail the 9th grade just once drop out of school. We know that 75% of prison inmates have dropped out of school. We know that 75% of prison inmates can't read or write. But we're never taught, we're never shared. It's never shared with us, people who do make it. With support. On this piece of paper that you have, not your journal, but on the piece of paper, on the very top of it, it says potential. In the middle, it says promise. At the end, it says purpose. Potential, promise, and purpose. What you have here, young men of all colors and ethnicities, is an opportunity. You don't blow it. Life doesn't meet you halfway. Second chances aren't guaranteed, and they have a place for you if you don't make the right choices. So this is the sharing process. One of the things that we do not do well is identify what it is that we're good at. So this is not a cheat sheet. This ain't for me. This ain't for your mommy, your daddy, your uncles, your grandparents. It's for yourself. For you to hold yourself accountable today. On this piece of paper, I simply want you to write down your potential. What is potential? Anybody? What is potential? My man. Oh, articulate, stand up, say your name.
My name is John Franklin. I'm here representing John Adams. The potential is the power you behold to do something.
Exactly. The power you behold that you have to do something. Your potential, what are you good at? What are you good at? We all have potential. We're all good at something. I want you to think deeply what you're good at. What comes natural to you? Having money is not the answer. The ability to generate income based upon your skill set and your intellectual capacity, or specifically something that a trait that you're able to do, is something that can be defined as potential. Because money comes and goes. The ability and the knowledge to earn money stays forever. So write down a couple things that you're good at. Now, for some of you, you might want to start off with some sports, right? If you're naturally good at it, right? But I'm going to tell you today, a lot of times we always say, you hear guest speakers, you hear principals, and I was one of them, saying, well, why don't you come up with something else, right? If you say you want to be a football player or a basketball player, we always say, well, you won't make it. The odds are against you. I'm here to say to you today that you can make it.